Hey everybody, how's it going? And welcome to Daily's 2A News. Today I want to run a couple terms by you, and you tell me which one sounds more dangerous and more detrimental to your Second Amendment rights. The first one is confiscation with compensation. The second one is mandatory buyback. Which one sounds worse to you? Well, guess what? As most of you have probably already figured out, they are exactly the same thing. However, the left loves to make up terms in order to soften public opinion on something. And so we've heard the term mandatory buyback over and over and over on our news lately because of the current political climate. But they can't say confiscation with compensation. That wouldn't sway public opinion. So they say mandatory buyback. But let's go ahead and evaluate this real quick. Mandatory means you must. That means that you have no choice. Okay, that means that you have to. Buyback means compensation, right? They want to compensate you for what is mandatory. If you take a look at those two words, mandatory buyback, it means you have to with compensation. That's exactly the same as confiscation with compensation. One just sounds a lot less threatening than the other. So when you hear them say mandatory buyback and you think, oh, they're not out to take away anything, right? They're talking about just buying them back. Try and keep in mind that's not the case. That's just a term that was made up in order to cover up the real words confiscation with compensation. The government just can't take something from you. They have to compensate you for it, right? So that's what they have to do. They have to compensate you for what they're taking. But what they're taking is mandatory, which makes it confiscation. They are planning to confiscate, and they're saying it out loud. They're just using a different word. So don't be fooled. It's just like when the left puts out bills in Congress and they give them these nice, pretty names that sound like flowers and rainbows. But when you read the text, it takes away your First or Second Amendment right. But if you just were to read the header of the bill, it sounds like it's going to be something that's going to fluff your pillow at night before you go to bed. It's not the actual case. Reading the text of it is completely different than reading the title, and mandatory buyback is just the title. The text of it is totally different. It's confiscation. So when they say that we're not talking about confiscating anything, you tell the people that you're talking to, yes, they are. If somebody was to come to your house from the government right now and they say, we want to buy back your house, then we want to buy back your car, we want to buy back your dog, what would you say? You never owned it. How could you possibly buy it back? It was never yours. Well, guess what? The things that they're talking about today were never theirs either. So how can they buy back something they didn't own? It's a made-up term. It's a word that they're using, again, to soften public opinion on something. They can't buy back something they never owned. It was never yours. You cannot buy it back. I don't want to give it to you. It's not yours. You can't have it. That's what they're saying, okay? So if they came to your house and they tried to buy back things that they didn't own, that would be your first argument. How do you buy back something you never owned in the first place? Well, they're not. They're just confiscating it, and they're going to give you money for it. So don't buy the terms that you hear from the left. Always dig deeper. Always look deeper than what just the facade is. You have to go beyond that and see what the actual purpose is. So again, when you hear the news, when you look at Fox or CNN or any of these, news media outlets, even your local news media, and that person says, well, there's a plan for a mandatory buyback, it's not voluntary. It's not a buyback because you never owned it. Okay, they're going to make you give them up, and then they're going to give you some type of compensation for it. I don't know, maybe they'll give you a $50 gift card to go to your local grocery store or something. Who knows? Who knows what their just compensation is? We don't, right? We don't know what that part of the plan is, but we know what the major part of the plan is: to get rid of them, to take them from you and give you some type of compensation for it. So don't fall for the terminology that you see the left use on the news every single day. You have to dig deeper. And so I wanted to talk about this today just to kind of make you aware. I'm sure I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, and I apologize for that. But for those people that are watching this that maybe weren't aware, or at least didn't look at it in that perspective, now you can look at it in that perspective. This is something that we need to make sure never happens. We need to make sure there's no mandatory buybacks or confiscation with compensation. That can't happen in this country. So again, now that you guys have kind of a little bit more of a broad understanding of exactly what you hear on the news, make sure that you stand up and you fight against it. That's why I'm part of the Firearms Policy Coalition. That's why I support them. That's why I promote them. They will be out there to fight these things if they ever actually happen, and they are on our side. So make sure you go to that link in the description box, you become a member, and you donate when you can, because it's getting a little bit out of control. Thank you all very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please like, subscribe. Have a great day.